Welcome, everyone, to the Four Words Podcast. My name is Aaron Doom Spikinator Harris, and I'm joined by three terrible flesh-eating ghouls.
Oh my... I thought we were done with this.
But I mean, like, that's on the other spec. That's like so far outside that it's no longer offensive.
Shut your fucking face.
Okay.
That one was Scott Haberdashing Sesterhan.
Ass.
I'm also joined by Stephen Frostbite Allen.
I like my flesh medium rare.
And Michael Azarish Matthews.
Dip ass.
All right. Welcome to the show, everyone. And let's hop straight into the news here. So first off, we're going to be at PAX East. Yes. In what capacity and everything, we're not completely 100% on yet.
It's like an announcement of an announcement almost, but we're going to be there.
Yeah, and to be fair, there's going to be lots of people, both from the League side as well as the RPG side, doing a lot of stuff that I don't know if we can really talk about yet.
Not really.
No,
Nothing's
okay.
set in stone just yet.
Yeah,
Lots of
nothing's set in stone, but there will be people from the network there. And depending on how much we're able to do, a lot of it depends on funding. So we need your help. In order to do that, to help us out, the best way you can help us out, go to patreon.com/TForce Network, and you can support us by helping fund us. If you go on Patreon, if you're not a subscriber yet, or you've subscribed before, if you are a subscriber, thank you so much. You help fund this network. If you haven't before, even if you do it for a month, the great thing is that we give you cool stuff for doing so. Some of the tier rewards include one-on-one coaching, reviews of games, being able to show up on a podcast episode. And one of the best things, though, is at the $10 tier, you can sign up and you get access to all of our exclusive podcast, which is our Champion Select podcast. Only people who are Patreons at least the $10 level get access to this. And we bring on the best of the best when it comes to certain champions, and we talk with them and pick their brains all about champions. There's a lot of great episodes out there. There's Olaf, there's Elise, there's just so many phenomenal ones. So definitely go to Patreon, please subscribe. We really appreciate it if you could do that. And the more you do that, the more it's going to allow us to do at PAX and in other future events and escapades. So thank you so much for that. Next on Zamora. If you are a Hearthstone fan, Zamora is going to be on our Hearth of the Cards podcast soon. He's casted for TESPA before and is a pro Hearthstone player. If you like Hearthstone or are even just learning about it, I just started playing it like when we announced the Hearth of the Cards podcast originally, and I love it. I've learned so much from these guys, and you can too by listening to the podcast.
It's a great game to play on your iPad while you're pooping.
Oh, absolutely. I have to take a shuttle to and from like my lot at work. And, it's nice because I can sneak a game in on the way in and on the way out, and I love it. It's a really, really fun game. You can throw it on the phone, but definitely check out.
When your friends like fail at Champion Select and somebody forgets to lock in, and then you have a few minutes to kill.
Yeah. So check out Hearthstone and check out our Hearth of the Cards podcast. Also, there are 2 weeks left for our T-Force tourney signups. We are having a giant tourney competition. There are so many people that have signed up for this.
There's only 2 spots left, actually.
Yeah, so we got to fill them. Go to reddit.com/r/TForce Network to sign up and check it out. And just check out our Reddit. There's always cool stuff up there. Also, February 25th, we have our Art of Top Lane episode with Pseudonaut and Quas, the Liquid Quas. And the week after, we're going to have Art of Support rehash with Pseudonaut and Bloodwater. And now, Art of Top and Art of Support, those are books from Pseudonaut. And one cool thing about Art of Top, if you would like to win a copy, you can throw out your goals to us. We're going to have a We're going to have a contest here. So we're going to be talking next week about goals for the season. And speaking about goals for the season, we got a really good email, and we just kind of want to interrupt the news here for this. We got a really good email here from Coxie Cat. Said, "Hey, Forwards crew, thanks for being a reliable podcast with great advice. You make my commute to and from work fly by. I'm one of those players that dabbles with playing ranked, but has never taken it to the next level. I've been wanting to wait for the start of the season to calm down and find its season 6 meta. But let's be honest, the best part of this game is that it never calms down. Anyway, I want to challenge myself to play 100 ranked games, throwing that out there. Do you have some advice for me or others out there that make similar goals? I'm open to any nuggets of wisdom you have. Champion pool size, playing all roles, play with friends, games per day, etc., etc. Thanks again for the podcast. You're a loyal listener, Coxcat." Thank you so much for writing in, Coxcat. And
yeah, that's cool.
We're going to really dive into that question next week. And I really want all of you listening and watching to think about that question, and
send in your own, either Twitter.
Tell us what you want to accomplish in this season 6 or 2016 season, whether that's a tier, whether that's, wanting to work on a specific aspect of your game. Just let us know. It's interesting to hear your responses, and you could potentially win a copy of The Art of Top. So win-win.
Yeah,
absolutely. So write in or tweet at us. You can email us. The email is at the end of the episode. We say it every week, and or at 4 Words Podcast. That's the number 4 Words Podcast on Twitter. And we want you to send in as many as you can. And by sending those in, we're gonna pick out of all the people who submit something. We're gonna pick out of that and give you a copy of The Art of Top Lane. Written by Pseudonaut and co-authored by Quas. So hope you love it. And
Discord.
Sorry. Discord. Join us on our Discord. If you go to our subreddit, you can find the link on Discord. Join us. That's what we're switching over to for our voice comms. So lots of cool stuff, lots of cool people always in there. So definitely feel free to hop in if you want to play games with us. There's always members of the network on that, so feel free to hop in and play. Also, any old episodes you want to listen to, any episodes older than like 10 episodes back, will be on tfpcdn.com/4words. That's the word for words. And you can dive back into old episodes, and from there we're going to dive into our trinket tip. Sorry, news was so long, and take it away, Scott.
All right, sure, yeah. Everyone knows I love to spam emotes in game, and I don't usually do that outside of a few champions.
That's me.
Yeah, but
I'm guilty of it, especially in Hearthstone. I
love doing it on Tarek.
Well met.
And anyways, there are command shortcuts that you can use to spam your own emotes. This is control 1 through 4, and your mastery emote control 6. This is going to do everything, joke, taunt, dance. I forget what the other one is.
Joke, taunt, dance,
laugh, right?
Laugh, yeah. Oh, of course, the Lux would get that one.
Well, but there's also like other certain champions, certain skins have other things they do with their emote. Like Leona's, I think she puts on a pair. No, that's Neon Strike Vi.
Yeah,
puts on a pair of sunglasses with control 2. Rengar,
puts his hood up and down.
Rengar puts his hood up and down. I'm trying to remember other ones like that.
The key thing is the hotkey, though, because if you want to spam your dance animation, you're not going to type /dance at a million words per minute. You're just going to hit the control button and then 1 through 4 to just have a bunch of crazy stuff happen.
Or bind that to another key altogether.
Or you're like me and you have a Naga that has it on 4.
Yeah.
And I just have it on the bottom, so I just hit any one of these and I can.
That's what I do
spam.
For the mastery emote. I have it on my mouse.
I sometimes will get it set up just when I'm playing Tarek, just so I can stand in lane and just, you are nothing but glass waiting to be smashed.
What? Yeah. How about we do a round table? What's everyone's favorite
gems
taunt?
Are truly outrageous.
It sounds like
they are truly outrageous.
Yeah, Tarek is
favorite
phenomenal.
I really like you lose. You
I
lose.
like that one too.
You lose.
It's not my favorite though.
Which-
lose.
My favorite
Malphite.
my favorite is Nautilus. Like, just the way he just like drops his anchor and is like,
Swims
oh, I'm just swimming around.
That's his
Whatever.
joke.
Oh, that's his joke.
Yeah.
This anchor just
Favorite
weighs
best joke
me
is Lux,
down.
hands down. Come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I failed.
I'm trying. Oh, Vygar's taunt is a lot of fun too.
Garen's dance is amazing.
It just gets so annoying. It's like
Garen's
you're
dance.
spamming it.
Yeah,
You
Garen,
deny the darkness in your soul. You deny your true power.
wow. Garen's dance and taunt are one of my favorites, especially ever since they redid him.
Yeah.
But I love his taunt because he does the one-armed push-ups like upside down.
I'm holding the world up.
So
For my next trick, I'll make their life bar disappear.
LeBlanc.
LeBlanc, yeah.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
Enough silliness.
So
I will get
let's-
all of them.
Let's get real serious here with our item discussion of the week. The newest item
guys, I'm
edition.
super serial.
Let's be super serial, guys.
Shut up or I'll stab you with the dusk blade.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Item is Duskblade of Drakthar. The most metal sounding item in League of Legends. It is the newest item made for assassins. Stats include
It's
75
literally
attack
built
damage,
Only out of AD.
5% movement speed. It's built out of a serrated dirk and a BF sword. Its unique is that your next basic attack on an enemy champion applies Nightfall. Nightfall, after 2 seconds, it deals 90 plus 25% of the target's missing health as physical damage. And if the target is taken down before Nightfall damage has been dealt, the full cooldown is refunded. The cooldown is 120 seconds. Oh, also 10 armor penetration.
Yes,
Correct
I
me if
mean-
I'm wrong. I think this is the only item that's built out of one stat only. It's only built out of AD.
Yeah, it's built
No.
only out of AD, but it provides
attack
Yeah,
speed,
no.
attack speed, rune ends,
movement
attack
speed, and armor.
I think that's it.
Cap.
Rabadons.
Rabadons.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true.
Rabadons. So,
Okay.
I mean, this item is an AD assassin's wet dream.
Yeah.
It's just so good. Like, it provides so much upfront damage. It is an expensive item at 3250 gold, but
It's nothing too crazy for
It's not
like
that
that
bad.
tier of items.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at what it builds out of: 2 long swords into a serrated dirk or a BF sword. Like, if you have the money for a BF sword, that is never a poor option. And
Yeah, it's
if you have
technically
to back and
the
just get
most
long
efficient.
Swords, if you have to back and just get long swords, eventually you'll get your serrated dirk.
Yeah.
You'll be good from there
Mhm.
too.
No, it's if you're having a hard time picturing like what Nightfall does, it is almost like Zed's ulti. As far as like
Basically,
that
yeah.
damage pop goes.
yeah, because it's basically because an assassin is gonna deal out their payload, so they want to, do their combo and throw in an auto attack in there, and the auto attack is gonna throw on the Nightfall, and then walk away and pop.
Yep. So the reason this only works on assassins and AD carries won't pick this up is because Nightfall triggers off of basic attacks. So on AD carries, you're attacking a lot of different targets, and you're not always trying to focus one down completely.
Mm-hmm.
So while this gives a lot of attack damage and armor penetration, it's not exactly the most efficient for an AD carry to buy.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a really nice item, and it's kind of nice to see a BF sword item that assassins can justifiably build. Like, I think that Infinity Edge is not really the best AD item for assassins, nor is
If you're a
Bloodthirster.
If you're ahead, i.e.
Maybe,
terrifying.
like,
but this is
yeah,
just so
yeah.
much better.
The
True.
thing I like about this is, and Riot stated, they wanted an item path specifically for an assassin, so that they didn't have to rely on crit builds
Yeah.
or just certain champion kits together, like Zeds, that were really, really good for assassinating. Items like these allow like that little bit of deficit to make up. So it's not based on random chance if you're going for crit, and it's not totally dependent on your own kit and making sure everything goes off entirely the right way. This makes up for that little bit that you'd be missing out in order to make other assassins more viable.
Yeah, I mean, they did nerf Zed a little bit with this new item coming out, and justifiably so, but like this item's going to be terrifying on Zed. But it's also going to make other AD assassins hurt that much more. I mean, Talon is just going to be a monster with it. Kha'Zix, I mean, you could almost see Kha'Zix and Rengar being seen in lane more with an item like this. I mean, do you guys disagree?
I don't think Kha'Zix is going to be in lane that often.
The reason Kha'Zix isn't in lane is because he benefits too much from being near jungle camps and being out of lane.
Yeah. As far as Ringo goes, he already does fine in lane. I think he had a higher win rate for top lane than he did in jungle from the last patch. But he'd be buying this either way.
Yeah.
So,
it'll be interesting.
Yeah. Let's keep going here. We're going to talk about assassins this week anyways. So this item was a good tie-in. We want to go through a lot about what makes an assassin, how do you play them, and what really is the best way to do it. So to start out, let's say, what is an assassin? What makes an assassin? What do they have in common? What do they want to do?
So assassins, like, there's a lot of, gray area in League of Legends for champions that kind of fit into multiple sort of characteristics. But an assassin is typically a champion that has very, very high burst damage. And I say burst damage because I didn't understand when I first got into League. If you think of someone like an AD carry, like you'll think of them as doing a whole bunch of attack damage. So you'd think, okay, they're going to be the ones doing the most damage. And that over a large scale team fight in the late game, that kind of makes sense. But an assassin is just like, I'm going to blow you up all at once. And then I'm usually gated by some sort of other cooldown.
Right.
Yeah.
Their power is in their abilities, not so much their auto attacks. Their main role in a team is to take out a priority target before a team fight starts and to keep those people suppressed the whole game.
I think, and that right there, I think needs to be a little diversified, because a lot of people don't realize that entails a lot of different things. That's not just you taking out the priority target, but also drawing in other resources from that team to protect that target. That means that you're forcing the support to be near the ADC, and you're drawing away from the front line. Like, you have to recognize what exactly is you're doing to benefit the team by focusing a priority target.
Yeah, I mean, an assassin works best by making themselves a target.
Exactly.
By being so deadly. Like, the other team needs to always be watching out for them. And sometimes just getting ahead a little bit early and not even doing even that awesomely from there, you can still be such a threat, because if you can play around vision, keep yourself out of sight as much as possible, you can screw with a team so much just in mind games. You have so much power, and there's such a meta game with assassins that allows you to really control a game if you play it right and you play it well. Because when you play around vision, you play around certain mechanics, you play around objectives, you can really force the other team to react to you. And most people playing this game who focus on reacting rather than acting will usually lose.
Yeah, I like that you bring up the skill that assassins really have to have. It is a feast or famine sort of role. There are going to be times where you just feel like you can't do anything. So it's important as an assassin to really know your champion well, know your limitations, know min-maxing, and you have to know your priority targets.
Yeah, it's definitely really huge. Everything Howard just said. It's about knowing. We talked about this last week about not being afraid. It's about being able to make those risks and then find out what your limits are, see how much burst you can deal out, because assassins generally have really strong all-ins and a lot of them are really mobile or have like really good gap closers. And the more you know what your champion is capable of, the more you're going to be able to find opportunities to punish people's mistakes. And that could lead to an objective, that could lead to a team fight victory, that could lead to a win. And that's really what playing an assassin's about. It's about finding somebody who's out of position or finding an opportunity to go in and just like instantly nuking someone.
Yeah. So let's go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say you'll find that a lot of people who are good at assassins tend to be good at an assassin because they have a lot of games on them. They play that champ a lot and they know them inside and out. And that's one of the big things is that you're gonna fail a lot with an assassin, but it's like Hai said in that interview, just don't be afraid. You have to push the limits and you have to see what they're capable of. And once you start to learn that, you can be really deadly as an assassin.
Yeah, so let's talk about some examples of assassins in the game, just real quick.
One of my favorites, Talon.
Actually, this might be a good point to tie in another one of our listener questions, if you guys want to do it now.
Might as well.
Sure.
Yeah, so we did get another listener question talking about assassins. Mainly, they were asking, what is the best assassin for someone to start out who is just starting League and wants to get into the assassin role. They've played assassins in other games and figure, that's the kind of play style I like. How do I apply that to League? What are going to be the champions I want to play?
Talon. In my opinion,
okay, so
Talon
let's talk
and
about
Diana.
Talon for a second. And let's talk about why Talon is good and what makes him so easy and simple for somebody to pick up.
So Talon's nice because his gap closer is not a skill shot. It's just a point and click, his E. So he jumps on them with his E, and he has a pretty set combo where as you rake E, attack Q, and ult. And that will usually kill most squishies. He can dominate a lane. He can poke with his rake pretty well. He can poke someone down. He can shove a lane with his rake. His rake has a lot of power with it. And I like him because, like I said, the biggest thing is that his gap closer is point and click. He doesn't really have any skill shots. And he's pretty straightforward with his combo. That's why I like him, and I think that he's a pretty good, early assassin to pick up. He's one of the first and really one of the only assassins I play, and he's very fun because when you take over a lane, it's done.
He used to be my favorite champion as I was leveling to 30.
Mm-hmm.
What changed about that, Haber?
I just got into other roles. I got into top, then stuck with AD carry. I still really like Talon, but
yeah, Talon's not my
not
number one recommendation for a starter. I agree with everything Doom said, and I think he is a pretty good choice if you like his playstyle. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever, you're gonna find something that you like and you're gonna stick with it. But if you're like brand new to the role, but you kind of like assassins in other games, I personally would recommend someone like Katarina or maybe Master Yi, because Katarina's not that great in lane, but her combo is like really easy to execute mechanically, but she's like the epitome of like waiting for the right moment to go in, and roaming, and like that's what being a good assassin player is about.
You can literally look up videos of people playing Katarina literally putting their face on the keyboard and getting quadra kills.
Yeah. But,
yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, when you're like offering a new player a character, you also want them to have like escapability. I think like LeBlanc, seriously, one of the best assassins to begin with, just because she has so much, like she has CC out of her chains, 2 chains if you want to. You can get in and out of situations with flash and your distortion, and you have a really straightforward combo as far as like what you do, and like you really only have 3 abilities, so it's really not that complicated.
I still like Fizz as a starting assassin, and I know the one drawback that people have about Fizz starting out is since he is a melee character, a lot of times early on in lane you will get picked on. That's just kind of the nature of being in in that mid lane against an AP carry with a lot of poke. However,
Yeah.
you can also play him out of the jungle with fairly good success.
Oh yeah, I used to do that in season
Oh, yeah.
3. It was super fun.
And it's still
Yeah.
it's very viable playing him full AP out of the jungle. But the things I like about Fizz as a starting assassin, unlike Talon and LeBlanc,
Katarina,
LeBlanc, Fizz's combo is a little bit more spaced out. You have time to breathe between it because when you do land that shark, you have until the knockup occurs where you can really deal a large amount of your damage. So everything's very spaced out. You can go in, toss out your shark, Trickster over to them and finish off with the Q and the Sea Urchin Strike. And once you start getting, your runic echoes or whatever, you really have your full combo. So if you start to get real comfortable with your skill shots, it can be really easy. I mean, like, even if you are in range to Q someone, you can actually ulti while you're in the middle of your Q, and it will hit them every time.
That's a really useful thing on Fizz.
So, everyone hates him.
I love him. I don't know what you're talking about. I fucking love him.
Well, everyone
also,
hates Rengar, and I love him.
I'll throw in like one other thing too, though. Say you kind of want to get into assassins, but there are other champs that you play. Remember, there's some champs that aren't necessarily assassins, but can kind of be built and played as them. So it might be a good way to kind of ease yourself into picking up an assassin. Champs like that can be like fighters that can build heavy damage. So like Wukong, J4, Vi, they all, Lee Sin, they're all just strong fighters, but you can actually surprisingly take a lot of them mid, build them full damage, and really just shit on a lane and shit on a game. The problem they run into is that without tank items, they tend to fall off really hard late. But they're a good way to kind of ease into that idea and that role. So if you play any fighters currently, that may be a good place to start. Is try building them damage, go mid, and see how you do, and go from there.
Yeah, and the main concept behind that just being you're taking someone who normally building a standard build path, it's very low risk, low reward. You start building more damage, you're upping the risk and upping the reward. And as you step into full assassins and those characters, that is right on the pinnacle of high risk, high reward situations.
So taking this a little more general here, because I think we got into the nitty gritty of some examples. So what exactly is an assassin's role on a team? I know a tank might be an initiator, AD carry might be like a damage source. What does an assassin bring to a team usually?
So I see what we write here, and while I agree, I think that within the current meta, the assassin role has been shifting to a very heavy, like, disruption kind of role. Like, yeah, they do still assassinate and do that very effectively. However, they're getting very good at just disrupting an entire team while doing it. And like that's becoming more of a focus for a lot of assassins. Like, yeah, you're still trying to outright kill somebody, but in the meantime, more specifically, you're trying to disrupt 2 or 3 people while you're also at it.
Yeah, it does depend a little bit on the person you're playing. The main concept behind Assassins is being that like big shot on your team to just scare the entire enemy team in one way or another, whether it's completely annihilating someone, disrupting the team fight, split pushing because no one can stop them one-on-one. That's the things that Assassins do well.
I mean, on a base level, it's like, okay, you're an assassin, you specialize in killing squishies. But on a more complex level, that translates to, okay, what happens if the assassin's not in vision? Can I go to farm this minion wave? Maybe I actually can't because I don't know where he is. Maybe I can't move to this location because my support's not here to protect me if Zed goes in. Like Asdrishan mentioned, like, you become a very disruptive force that makes it really hard for like the squishy champions on the enemy team to really do their job. And if you get really fed, even like the medium to like lightly tanky champions can't deal with your damage output.
And the biggest thing, you're punishing every single mistake that they make. Like, if they make a bad call, you should be pouncing on it every opportunity. Like, the ADC went off by himself. You killed him. You're taking Dragon and pushing a lane because of it. Like, and that's your job.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not even killing squishies that can be an assassin's main job. It's kind of like what you were saying is like disruption, because sometimes if they have one frontliner and maybe their frontliner's not like super ahead, he's just kind of keeping pace with everyone and he's enough of a tanky threat. But even if you don't kill him, if you can chunk him down super hard, they don't have a front line. So then what are they going to do when the rest of your team engages on them?
I will say, though, to caveat that, because we talked a lot about assassins being insanely good at like all-ins and 1v1s. They typically, while they're probably the best champions in the game at taking out like squishy targets like AD carries, marksmen, etc., they generally don't like outright like kill a lot of heavy tanks that itemize against them. But
and there are a lot of tanks that if they go in on it can be pure suicide. You know, going in on like a Maokai or a Volibear or something like that, or a Galio, that can just
that's still a champion.
Yeah,
I like Galio too.
Oh yeah,
but I mean, it could just be outright suicide because you hop in on them, they lock you down, and now you're just dead.
Yeah, but to keep things moving forward here, kind of going to when you start a game as an assassin, you know, you're starting at level 1. You don't have all your abilities. A lot of I would say there's a couple different types of assassins, and depending on the champions you're playing, it could vary greatly. But I would say almost all assassins are somewhat power spike reliant, and playing around that power spike is a huge part of how you play them in the early game.
Yeah, well, especially early game, you absolutely have to learn matchups. Absolutely have to learn them, because a lot of champions, a lot of assassins do get a really good level 2 power spike. And if you are taking Ignite, whether it be in the mid or top lane, you need to be able to get to that level 2 power spike first and establish your dominance early in that lane. If you are a champion that has a good level 2 power spike, like
Rengar.
Biz, like not Rengar.
What?
Well,
have you seen Rengar in top lane with 5-stack ferocity?
I really don't play him out of top. I play him out of jungle. So, but yeah, him.
Deadly.
Let's see.
Riven, if you count Riven as an assassin.
Yeah, you could.
Talon.
Let's see. Talon. Yeah, definitely. These people, like, they start to get damage and mobility early on, and then can really just jump on people, snowball the lane from that level 2 point. LeBlanc.
Yeah, LeBlanc's burst at level 2 is so good. Holy crap.
Silly.
But not all assassins are alike, and they get power spikes at different points. And so a common category of some assassins are like these very ultimate reliant assassins. Like if you think of Diana and Akali are like great examples of this. Kassadin as well.
Zed.
Like
Zed
they're not
Zed.
No, I wouldn't lump Zed into there just yet, because I think Zed can do a lot pre-6, but like an Akali and a Diana is really not gonna like have much kill potential before they get their ultimate.
I don't know.
True, but like even then, it's like the potential they have before and after their ultimates is still completely different.
Yeah.
It's just as denied as much as Zed is.
Well, like here's the thing: Zed could potentially like chunk a squishy down to like half health with a shuriken combo.
Diana if somebody walks into a bush blindly.
Yeah, but like in lane, I'm speaking of like in lane,
even top lane, I could do the same thing as Diana.
Like,
I could easily chunk somebody down at level 3.
You're playing an Akali against like a ranged mage. How are you gonna kill them at like level 2 and 3?
Yeah,
well, I mean,
tough,
the point is you can if you're using your power spikes correctly. I think what we're talking about when they have access to their ultimates, they get very close to that 100 to 0 sort of category. The true assassin,
massive power.
And that's what we're trying to get at when they get their ultimate reliant.
Most champions, most assassins are ultimate reliant.
And going back to what Haber mentioned before, it's super important to know what your champion's capable of, because I'll use Zed for example. If you are like poking them down with shurikens and things like that, as soon as you recognize where the enemy champion is at a low enough health where if you were to actually commit and go in and ignite them and like kill them, like being able to recognize those instances where the enemy is misplaying and you can punish their mistake is like the difference between like a okay to like poor assassin player to somebody who's like really skilled and knows their champion really well.
Mm-hmm.
The gap closer definitely allows you to punish mistakes, but again, you don't necessarily want to rely on that like mistake to occur. And I think that's why most assassins are considered ultimate reliant. Like even though you have that play for trickster or you have that shadow to jump to, doesn't necessarily mean that you have just as many opportunities as somebody else. Like that's one damage ability that's not there anymore.
Right, and especially laning as Zed, LeBlanc, anyone that does have that sort of dash ability early on, the jungler's waiting in the bush for you to blow that ability every time.
Yeah, that ability needs to be used with the utmost like care, precision.
Yeah.
Like that is your like fall upon.
That I think that's something about assassins in general, but especially for lane. What Asterishan's pointing out, like you generally have a certain ability that's like you really it's on a long cooldown or it's like really important to you, and so if you use it, you want to make sure you don't misplay. You don't want to like play full trickster and then suddenly somebody wails on you. You don't want to throw out your dash and then have a jungler come gank you.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
But a lot of these champions, they have these combos, they have these burst all-in potentials, and it's really about just recognizing that moment where it's like, okay, if he goes for this cannon minion, he only has this much health. If I go in, bam, that's like a free kill. And like, knowing that is huge.
Absolutely, especially earlier on. It can be very easy to read what your opponents are going to do, especially looking at a dying CS. Because in that moment, a lot of people are just completely focused on getting that cannon minion.
But Habba, I gotta get the cannon minion.
Yeah, you got 50 gold and you
spell.
gave the enemy 300.
Yeah, getting that cannon minion is not worth your life. Like, be careful around an assassin because an assassin is a good assassin is going to exploit your mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
And making those mistakes of going for something when you shouldn't is the number one way to let an assassin get ahead.
And once they get ahead, as we mentioned before, their feast and famine kind of kicks in, and once they start to get stronger, they get stronger and potentially even stronger. And one thing that assassins are also really good at, beside from just staying in lane and trying to kill their opponent, some of assassins aren't even that great at that. They're also usually exceptionally good at roaming to other lanes and trying to look for kills.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I mentioned Katarina. Like, there's nothing like that moment where, like, you think you're, like, crushing a cat in lane and then you recall or something, and then she roams bot and gets a double kill, and you're just like,
GG,
fuck!
bot fed.
Yep.
Yeah, or, like, jungle assassins fit into that, too. And it... A lot of time, I'm trying to think of a good way to word this here. When you are roaming, it is still important to act as a jungler and identify the best chance. Let's say you're mid lane. Is it going to be top lane? Is it going to be bottom lane? Or is it going to be someone that you've spotted out in the jungle that you have the highest potential to kill in that short time period? You have to look health bars, available skills on their side. What does your team have up? Identifying exactly when they're going to get in and how much time you have. Because for most people, 15 seconds is what it takes to get between lanes.
Mm-hmm. And I think that the key thing is, obviously think about what's going to happen before, but then also think about what's your next step if it goes right. Because so many people will write in saying, I get like 10 kills on LeBlanc and like I never win games. Like, you also need to remember that no matter how good you are at deleting a target, at the end of the day, you still need to go for objectives.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a mentality that should be used in every situation, to be honest, is think about what you're going to do next. If you fail, what do you think about? What are you going to do next to make up for it? What are you going to do to try and reprimand it? And if you succeed, what are you going to do? What if you don't? What if nothing comes of it? Where are you going to go to try and make the most of your wasted time going to bot lane? Are you going to take a camp? Are you going to take scuttle? Like there should always be a plan for, okay, if nothing happens, then this is what I'm going to do. If I die, well, then this is what I need to do to make up for it. And if I succeed, then this is what we're going to do afterwards.
And playing around vision and roaming are all really big parts of being successful in like the early to mid game as an assassin. And really just the stronger you get and the more you're able to just remove an enemy target from the game, like it opens up so many opportunities for your team to go try and get a turret, go try and get a dragon, and being able to, you know, pick off that greedy Ziggs that, you know, went out into an unwarded territory is like, that's just playing an assassin to their fullest.
Yeah, so let's keep moving on here because we got plenty to talk about. Another big thing about assassins is their combos. Everyone who's an assassin has some sort of combo that they pull off, and everyone who plays that person has that committed to memory. Yes. I mean, whether it's Talon, E, Rake, ulti, or...
Yeah.
Rake first because
Rake, because
you
the
to put
slow
it on cooldown,
from the
and
passive.
it applies the slow, which means you get bonus damage from your E when you use it.
Yep.
Because of your passive.
Your E doesn't do any damage.
Yes, it does. It does a little bit. It
But
does do a little bit of damage. I guarantee.
Your
E
your E amplifies damage, but your passive also amplifies
10%
damage
to any CC
to slow targets.
It does damage. I watched it the other day. It did a little bit of damage.
Are you sure it's
yeah.
okay?
It was really weird, but I was thinking about it too. I was like, I didn't think it did, and it did.
Well, with Talon, you can either rake E attack Q or you can rake attack Q.
You can also ulti E rake Q, and
yeah, your ulti is either at the beginning or the end.
And
it doesn't do damage.
That's the thing about some assassins. They're often kind of tricky because the way to use their combos the most effectively on some assassins isn't always the same thing in every situation. Like popping your ult on Talon before going in might be really advantageous if you're trying to use the stealth as part of your initiation. Whereas if you're just an all-in lane, you might do for a different combo for the maximum damage output.
A really concrete example of this, I think, is Rengar. Because of the different effects he gets based on his ferocity once he gets that 5 stack. Now, most people will use the empowered Q as part of their combo when ulting a target. But depending, this target has flash, a dash still available to them. Maybe I'm better off using the empowered net to make sure I root them and rely on the damage from my team when I'm ganking to make sure that I get that kill. You know, that's the most concrete example I can think of.
Yeah, every assassin has different combos, and some are pretty concrete standard combos, and others are different. Like a Kassadin, for example, doesn't necessarily have a concrete combo. It depends on how you're approaching someone and how you're going in on someone. I mean, usually you're gonna like Q, alt, attack, EW, but
that's the combo.
they're
another ult.
And then follow up with an alt and ignite. But it's kind of knowing also you have to remember to remembering to activate different items. Some champs use items like Ghost Blade,
TMI,
and TMI
Dusk
and
Blade.
Blade King and
Dusk
stuff
Blade.
like that. So
actually that's not an active.
You don't have to activate that. Yeah. So when you go in,
you said Dusk Blade.
Yeah. Ghost Blade, you do need to activate.
Ghost Blade, you do. So activating items or making sure that you're throwing your ignite on them, at the end, or making sure that you're there. I mean, there's just so many things to take into account. Also, making sure that you're going to be able to get the damage down, because if you use your gap closer and they have their flash, then you're kind of boned because you can't get the rest of your damage off after they flash. So
To sum it up, I guess, you have a very small, finite window in which you are able to get everything off. So to make sure that you're doing everything, it's good to practice those. Have an idea of what you want to do before you go in. Kind of like just map it out in your keyboard. Like get that rhythm down in your fingers. I used to do that all the time when I was first learning the combos. Okay, QER, whatever it is. Just to make sure that you have that. Because really, as the game goes later and as you're getting more damage, you really only need, if you're good, less than a second to do your job.
Yep.
And so I think we've covered a lot about like their early game playstyle and some of the things that they do going forward. But just as a general thing, before we move on to team fights, so every champion in this game has a role that they can play in the team fight. Assassins tend to have a very tricky job in team fights that are really coordinated because unlike a long range mage or something that can throw out a bunch of abilities, they against a coordinated team there's a lot that they need to keep track of. Whereas if an assassin that's playing on a map that they've taken control of, everything's chaotic, there's no vision, and they can like look for opportunities and they're already fed, that's where an assassin thrives, and they can look for picks, they can create 5v4s.
In a team fight setting, if your priority is to annihilate someone on the enemy team, you have to get it out of your head that you are like part of that team. All that's important is getting that one target. You are not part of that functioning unit of your team. You are on your own, kind of doing your own thing. And yes, your team can help you accomplish that a little bit, but at the end of the day, most of the time you're not going to be directly with your team when that fight starts. You are letting them engage. You are letting them start to burn stuff. You're waiting for that opportunity to go in. Okay, Malphite ult is blown. Corky's now in a position that I can get to him. He already used his Valkyrie. I can now get to him. That's when you decide to go in. It is very precise time that you need to make to do your job.
Mm-hmm. And so typically before a fight starts, most assassins that are participating in a team fight, what they'll do is they'll find some place, maybe in the fog of war or maybe in a flank somewhere where it's hard for the enemy team to keep track of them. So that way it's easier for them to find windows of opportunity. Assassins are all about finding windows of opportunity and capitalizing on them.
And just throwing a brick right through it.
And that's why one of the reasons why I recommended Katarina before, because she falls into a camp of reset assassins, which is which basically means, if they get kills and assists, they get cooldowns refreshed so they can kill more and more people. Same thing with Master Yi. And so these champions get really heavily rewarded for doing this well, where they wait for some sort of major crowd control to go out. Like, oh, Vi decided to ult the other person because no one else was around. And then bam, Master Yi comes in, quadra kill. And like that's possible because you are patient. Patience and looking for windows of opportunity are key on Assassins.
Absolutely. And also too, positioning is just so huge. And positioning in many aspects, positioning in lane, positioning in how you're going to engage or go in on a target, or just positioning in not being seen. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just not be seen, because if they don't know where you are, they have to play differently because they don't know where you are.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say too, and one of the biggest things you can focus on too, as an assassin, you're like, oh yeah, damage, but don't forget about vision. Don't forget about countering vision and making sure that you know where they can't see you, because if you're standing on top of a ward, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Okay. So going forward, one of the biggest walls I see people playing Assassins running into is once the team fights start to start up. If you've done your job correctly as an assassin up to that point, the enemy team's starting to realize, okay, this guy's a big deal. We need to be watching out for him. And they'll start playing around that. They'll start grouping up. You can no longer just ulti in as Rengar or Talon or someone else and try to eliminate that squishy, because they are going to be right on you as soon as you do that. So that is when you need to start getting away from team fights sort of as your win condition, and looking for other opportunities. And that's where vision becomes incredibly important. Vision and vision denial.
Yeah, I think that assassins can team fight. Every champion can team fight, but
Right.
like Haber's mentioning, you eventually get this. You become such a threat, and when a team eventually starts grouping up, everyone's thinking, "Oh crap, we need to deal with this guy, or else he'll kill our backline, or he'll do this." So playing an assassin in a team fight, you need to be really patient or really observant of when you can actually go in, and it's really tricky. So a lot of times, what's actually much more successful is like you're already super strong 1v1, you're already super mobile. Maybe it makes more sense to split push or create pressure elsewhere, tear apart the team so they're not as organized and can't.
And that's where that like disruption sort of aspect comes in. You're not allowing them to group up for the team fights that they need to win. You're making them group up so you can then pick them off one by one.
And one thing I can't stress enough, because like I mentioned Master Yi before, like nothing makes me facepalm more than like that Fed Master Yi who's like hard carrying his team, and he's like, "All right, I got this, guys," and then like he pops his Highlander ultimate and just runs into 5 people, immediately gets ulted, and like immediately deleted.
There could only be one, and now there's none.
It's your job is not like the tanky initiator that knocks everyone up. Your job is to go in when you see that window of opportunity, and then if you do it right, you're actually usually incredibly impactful.
Right. Because at the time where team fights start happening, unless for some really weird reason where you have like 15 kills at that point, you're not going to be able to deal with 3 people on the enemy team trying to prevent you from killing that one person. They're going to win that fight 9 times out of 10. So you're
usually pretty squishy too. So like you'll die during one CC chain.
So you really need to take that time, reevaluate what it is that you need to be doing. A lot of assassins get up their own ass, like, "Oh, I can totally kill these people. Just fucking watch me," and then ends up feeding through mid game and ends up losing.
Because it doesn't matter if you ended the lane at 5-0. If you end the game at 5-5, you've done nothing.
And do mention something before, which I think I definitely want to bring up again, which is that there's a lot of really important items to keep track of and actives that you need to watch out for. I mean, first of all, summoner spells are huge. If you know whether the AD carry has flash, if you know whether or not the enemy support can exhaust you, et cetera, all of those are huge. But also just like knowing, like you're playing Zed and you know that Ari just finished Hourglass, that could be the difference between you making a bad decision or making the right decision.
Yeah. Oh, Hourglass.
You've been playing too much Rengar, Haver.
Any assassin, I mean, Hourglass can completely take you out of that fight if you're not conscious of them having that item and trying to work around that. Hourglass still does have a cooldown. If you pop it early or prioritize other targets, there are still ways that you can win the game.
And that item is also really fun sometimes if you are an assassin, because there's nothing quite like when you assassinate the high priority target on the enemy team, and then the enemy team's like, "Well, shit, we got to react to him," and then suddenly you're invulnerable, and the rest of your team comes in. So great. One thing I mentioned here, and we've said it before, but to quote Zed himself, "The unseen blade is the deadliest." Like, you really want to be able to recognize flanks. You want to play around vision. The assassin that just walks up a lane towards an AD carry is rarely going to assassinate the AD carry as long as he's paying attention.
Ghostblade. Ghostblade, Zed, Shadow, Zed, R. He's there.
Well, yeah, within reason. Like, obviously, if you're...
But I mean, that gets back into that whole overzealous thing. Zed sees that juicy target sitting up there, but doesn't see anyone else on the map. Starts going in. Fuck, I'm dead now.
And then Warwick ults him, and then he cries
Yeah.
in sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, does anyone have any last bit of advice for diving into assassins and really getting the most out of them?
I mean, do as Shia LaBeouf says and just do it. Like, grab a champ that seems fun and go at it. Mind your positioning, see where your power spikes are in lane, see where you're strong in team fights, how you can act in team fights, and always be worried about your positioning. One of the great things about an assassin that they will teach you is the importance of positioning. They are probably the best role outside of maybe an AD carry on how to know positioning. And
It's a different sort, I think.
yeah, but I mean, it will help you so much in your overall game, with engaging, with knowing your kill potential, all that. But just don't be afraid. Do it.
I think the tip I want to stress here for people who have already started playing Assassins, you have someone you like and you've been playing him for a while, but you don't know how to go forward. You're one of those people that have ridden in somewhere or another, say, I've gotten all these kills, I still end up losing the game. You really need to start working on predicting enemy movements and vision in vision denial. Once you start getting to that point, you can just sit in a bush knowing, okay, their red just spawned. That AD carry is going to come right for that, and they have no idea I'm right here. They're dead again. I'm going to watch their death timer. They're going to be up in 30 seconds. I'm going to kill them right again. Knowing how to predict those enemy movements takes out of the equation what you need to do in a team fight, because they're never going to get to that point because you are just that big of a threat, and you come out at them without them really knowing what's going on.
Take advantage of the mental games that you can play as an assassin. Like, there's a lot that you can do to screw with your enemy, as far as lurking in the shadows, and they know that you're around there because maybe you took out one of their wards in their bot side of the jungle, and now they know, oh shit, Zed's in the bot side of the jungle. Don't go over there. You can control a lot of the map just by even semi-exploiting yourself and showing up. There's a lot of games that you can play with people just mentally.
Yeah, and what I'll say is kind of a combination of what Asdurish and Haber said, which is that, first of all, thrive in the chaos, like Asdurish mentioned, but then also it's not about getting a crazy good KDA. Like, the KDA is a means to gaining an advantage, and assassins can really do a lot with an advantage. But at the end of the day, League of Legends is still an objective-based game. Create pressure on the map. Find opportunities, like roam, take turrets, like make sure that create 5v4 situations and apply that disruptive pressure on the map so that way you are able to end the game. Like, you can't play an assassin the same way you play like a long-range mage or like someone who's like a supportive passive champion.
In the words of Han Solo, don't get cocky, kid.
Just
all right,
works.
So we do have a listener question to end the show on. So I think we're gonna do that here. Muzu Banba. Okay.
Close
My
enough.
bad. Okay, writes in saying, "Hi guys, I picked up League halfway through the last season as a solo queue player and worked my way from Silver 5 to Silver 3. Throughout the ranks, and the higher I got, and the more fun the game was. People worked together and communicated. We planned and we conquered. When we lost, we knew what we did wrong. Then comes Season 6. I was placed in Bronze 4 and everything went to hell. Games are won and lost on people giving up first blood and going AFK. Surrender at 20 is pretty much every game, and worst of all, no one plays for the team. Frankly, it has frustrated me and in feeling like luck determines if I win or lose. I have hit 99 LP 4 times in a row now, just to rocket back down to 50 and start the climb all over again. I don't have a ton of spare time, but I enjoy playing this game before and I want to enjoy it again. What can I do? TLDR, I feel that when loss in low elo is luck and chance. Would love to hear from you, and thanks for the podcast on my hour-long commute.
If you're not enjoying the game, you can't really force yourself to enjoy the game. However, if you want to climb, that is something that you can force yourself to do, and that's going for the 5th time.
Yeah,
that TLDR.
yeah.
That's just like
Yeah.
I cringe so much when you
The
read
one
that,
thing, like,
Heather.
yeah. So you started playing ranked last season. That's really great. I'm really glad that you did climb, and I realize it can really suck to get placed lower than you did last season. But maybe you're not aware. Just about every season, everyone gets moved down a peg. Everyone, especially with the new dynamic queue this season, that even set that even farther. Like the challenger people last season don't go right back out the challenger. What's the highest you can get to start out is
I
a
think
plat?
it's platinum 1.
Yeah.
Plat 1.
And even those people will still get placed in the gold. And some
Well,
of
yeah,
them,
I mean,
like,
some
even
of the
lower.
people in the network, at like Adam, for example, he was what, Plat 2, Plat 1 last season?
Yeah.
It was plat for multiple seasons, and so was DeClaude, and both of them got placed in silver.
Mid-silver. Yeah.
You're not. This is something everyone experiences. So on that front, as frustrated as you feel, you got to understand that everyone goes through that.
We don't want to say
Yeah.
suck it up, but suck it up.
But
Yeah,
So,
and
also
also
play
though,
with teammates. That's the other thing.
yeah,
Dynamic
I
queue,
mean,
that shit up.
Yeah, getting into that
Yes.
other part of it
If-
now, where you feel like you're stuck in bronze 4,
Exactly.
and you feel like you're in elo hell. Once again, I can understand the frustration, but at the same time, that's not elo hell.
no.
yeah, so the TLDR made me cringe because it says, I feel that win and loss in low elo is luck and chance. And
It's
League
the
of
exact
Legends
opposite, actually.
it's not about luck and chance. It's about the better player will climb through the ranks. Maybe one particular game you might lose because the top laner like DC'd and you're playing like a 4v5 and then like everyone like AFKs. It'll happen. It's 5v5 game, but over a large period of games, the one consistent factor in all your games is you. If you play better than your opponents, you will climb.
Yeah, if you are playing to your best potential and you want to go in every game trying to win and have fun, your team statistically has a 20% less chance of having a feeder on it.
Yep.
That's just the way it works. And I understand those sort of games where you do have a feeder or someone who goes AFK after first blood can be really demoralizing. It's not helpful to focus on those games where it does happen, because I guarantee
Those
they
are the
happen.
exceptions to the rule.
It's a
They
50-50
happen
chance.
less. They happen less often than what you're remembering.
Either you get them on your team or they get them on their team.
And you only have a 4 out of 5 chance. They have a 5 out of 5 chance of that happening.
Yeah.
So
So technically, odds are not in your favor.
I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with Last Shadow. I know he's a bit of a divisive person, but he said something once where it was like, okay, to anyone who thinks that elo hell is real, explain to me what elo boosting is. And elo boosting is it's against terms of service and everything. I highly am against it, but it's where a higher level player plays on a low level account and raises them up to a certain rank. This theoretically is not possible if it's impossible to get out of bronze or to get out of silver. Like, the reason the higher level player is able to climb that quickly is because they understand so much more about the game than their opponent, that they're able to play and impact the game in a way such that they're able to climb the ranks.
They're also playing a different game than you. Like you're like in bronze, you can't play the team game. Oftentimes, you notice that you're not winning because of the team game. You're often winning because they're taking advantage of the discommunication in bronze.
Right, but like
Each
even
different area has that issue that
like you're saying last season you climbed to silver 3. If you play throughout the season, 99% sure that you can get back to that same point.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
gotta stick with it. Like, it's so. We said this last
I say
week.
99 instead of 100 in case, I don't know, you lose an arm or something.
We said this last week, but climbing is really a marathon, not a sprint, and it's gonna take a while. Like, a 56% win rate, like, is gonna climb. It's just gonna take a couple games to actually get there. Like, and League of Legends games take a while. Like, it just keep playing and focus on what you can control, and that's the best way to climb. Not like I got 90 LP now, and now I just lost 17 LP, and now I need to get this much LP. Like, just focus on the actual game.
I don't look at ranked. I don't look at my LP when I do a session of ranked. If I'm like maybe if I'm just doing like 1 or 2 games of ranked, but if I'm going in for like a session of ranked, like 5 or 6 games, I try not to look at my LP because like that'll distract you from the greater purpose of doing your best.
I'm the same way.
And I mean,
it's not always doing your best sometimes.
You lost your promo. It sucks. What are you gonna do next time?
And from like my perspective, like me personally, I'm not an extremely competitive person, so it's like, you know, I play the game to have fun. I play the game because I enjoy it, and I do work to actively get better at the game, and I, you know, have increased my skill and stuff, but I have very limited time to play the game, so I don't really play ranked. So, you know, always look at it from that aspect too. Like, if you're not enjoying it, you know, is it for you?
Yeah, I mean, if you are serious about like really getting back in and you really want to enjoy this game, go back, listen to our first 2 episodes where we talked about setting goals for the season, and it would be really cool for you to send in a goal for next week as well, just to sort of try to set yourself up and just have a good season.
I like the transition you made there, but just for those out there who don't know, if you want to go back and listen to episode 1 or 2, you have to go to our repository link,
right,
which is tfpcdn.com/4words.
That's the word for. Yep.
We stress this point so hard at the very start of our show that improvement all comes with the mindset that you can work on what you can actually control, and we go into a lot of detail in those first 2 episodes. So if you're interested in hearing more, especially if you're interested in climbing and getting better at this game, you can go back and listen to them there.
Yeah, so
absolutely.
Noisy, thank you for writing in. We really feel for the frustration that you have. It's something that everyone kind of goes through, but we really want you to stick with it. Start getting those goals together. We're really rooting for you, man. Everyone else, get your goals together for next week. We'll be back to talk about goals for this season. And I think that'll do it for us this week here on the Four Words Podcast. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.